In most tabletop role playing games, it's often assumed that your character is going to be good at everything. But what if they're not? Role playing characters who are basically supermen or superheroes of some sort doesn't leave you a lot of room for development or for actually portraying someone as a realistic person. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about being bad at something as a role playing idea. Now, I'm not talking about flawed characters, nor am I even talking about suboptimal characters. We are talking about using a character flaw or a game mechanic in a way that doesn't hurt how the party plays or what your performance is within the party, but still gives you something to put your teeth into. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now, when we're talking about being bad at something without hurting the party, I'm talking about in your downtime while one of your characters is doing treat wounds, you're following up or leading them by wrapping gauze around whatever wounds there might be without actually doing a realistic check. I'm talking about if you have a character that is not a great martial character and doesn't have the strength and is very unlikely to hit anyways, well, why not try tripping or shoving? Or why not have that character grapple? It is unlikely they're going to hit. They're pretty much just as likely to be able to trip or grapple or shove as they would be if they were trying to do a strike anyways. So why not try to do a debuff with the same possibility as you getting a strike and allowing that to be part of your character? Most of the time you're going to fail, and that can become a bit of a trope. But when you succeed, all of a sudden the whole table comes alive a little bit because this little tiny gnome just tripped this particular creature that they always fail at. So it can bring a little bit of life into what you are trying to do. So let's talk about a few reasons why you might want to make your character bad at something. The first reason is it adds realism to the character. As we mentioned before, there aren't very many supermen or superwomen in real life. Not everybody is good at everything, so your character probably shouldn't be as well if you're really interested in the role play side of it. It makes sense that your character is going to have something that they're not particularly good at, or maybe it is a hobby that they like to do that doesn't affect gameplay, but could be something that they could kind of sink their teeth into as a characteristic of that character. An example might be you have a barbarian that likes to do card tricks. So he thinks he does magic, but he really doesn't. He's just doing sleight of hand and probably very badly. These are just little things that you could possibly do. Another reason is to create role playing challenges, not necessarily mechanical challenges, but role playing challenges. If your character is bad at something, they're going to have to work harder to succeed. It can lead to some interesting role play opportunities. It can lead to some interesting character builds. It can also give you a guide or a path for how you would like your character to develop as you move up levels. And finally, making your character bad at something, in truth, it can just be a lot of fun. It can be challenging and rewarding to come up with a potential flaw and then figure out a way to overcome that particular character's weakness in the role-playing side. Once again, we've already talked about suboptimal characters, and I think it's a good video at the very least. But this is more from the downtime type perspective when you're really into the role-playing or the character NPC interaction time of the game. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to how to be bad at something. You might ask, well, how do I make my character bad at something? Well, take any of the particular skills that are provided in the core rulebook or some of the mechanics for downtime and think of a way in order to make that something that they could be challenged with, but won't affect the rest of the party. One way is, once again, to simply choose a skill that your character is bad at. You can make your character bad at magic. Once again, the barbarian who does street magicians. You could have a bard that is horrible at stealth, but somehow always wants to try to sneak up on stage in order to do an impromptu performance between other performances or perhaps proclamations by the king. Or, as in my other example I mentioned before, you could have a character that is not a great striker, but on their particular rounds where they only have one action left and they don't have a good buff, spell, or skill that they could use, and they would just go ahead and strike, have them try that trip with their reach weapon that has a trip trait. And if they do that consistently, then when they actually do trip, it becomes a big deal and something to celebrate. And then another way that you could do it is you could kind of role play a character's incompetence during downtime. You could have a character go to an NPC and attempt a diplomacy check when they have absolutely poor charisma. You could have a character with no training in survival be one of the particular player characters that is going out to search for food. In the end, it isn't going to affect the party because you have other player characters that are good in these particular things that will be able to succeed or more likely to succeed than you. However, when you do succeed, it becomes a big deal and something that you can really work off of in order to give your character a little bit of a flavor. Some of the things that I mentioned that you could think about is, once again, the fighting. I don't want to say make them bad at fighting specifically, but once again, have them try the trips, have them try the grapples. And once they do succeed every once in a while, it will become fun. The street magicians, someone who is bad at stealth, as mentioned with the bard trying to jump up on stage all the time. Have someone who is particularly bad at dancing or singing, and they would try to join the bard on stage and get booed off so the bard can go ahead and play alone. Someone who is bad at repairing things, or someone who, once again, has a bad diplomacy skill that is going to be talking to the NPCs while still having the face of your party there to go ahead and clean up whatever messes they might make. So, being bad at something can be a great way to add depth and complexity to your role playing. By giving your character these downtime weaknesses, you can make them more realistic and, being honest, a little bit more relatable. You could also use your character's weaknesses to create interesting role playing opportunities as well as ideas for your build as you move forward with that particular character as they overcome what these particular weaknesses are. So the next time you're creating a character, don't be afraid to give them a few weaknesses, and it just might make your role playing experiences a lot more fun. Now, I hope this role playing idea maybe gave you some ideas and gave you some things to possibly put into your builds or to work into your table a little bit. I do hope you liked the video, and if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.